Which huge Chinese company is almost bankrupt?
Good question and serious topic. I will talk about it later in this video. What happened this week?
This week, maybe you remember that Monday the US markets were closed.
Yes.
So not too much action normally in Europe, although Europe closed higher. And Tuesday, when the markets opened again in the US, the markets were lower, maybe still as a result of last Friday, the Friday before, when the job reports were not that good. 200,000 new jobs, there was expected 700,000. Also the Bitcoin and Ethereum lost that day over 10%. I didn't really find a specific reason, maybe just a correction, but they're still trading at the same level, so they didn't really recover. The rest of the week it was mainly waiting for Thursday with the ECB, and that was yesterday, yes, the press conference of the ECB.
What do you think about the press conference?
I think it's not very spectacular, and I think everyone is speaking a lot about it, and then there is a moment, I think Martin also said it in the past, there's a moment and there's some movement in the market, but in the end it's just what everyone already knew. But maybe you see it differently, that there was...
No, I think everybody was listening to the interest rates, but everybody was expecting that nothing would happen, and nothing happened. So they said, okay, we keep the interest rates at the same level, and also the banks need to pay if they put money with the ECB 0.5%, 50 basis points. But she did said something, and she said something that at the moment the ECB buys on a monthly basis for 80 billion euros of mainly government bonds, and they say, but I didn't see an exact time frame for that, but they said we will lower that to 60 billion. So that is a small sign. And you saw also this morning on the television that they said a lot of analysts said now the interest rate in Europe will stay low for many years. Some of them said decades, some of them said 4 or 5 years. We saw this morning early, and then I think it's really difficult and also really dangerous to say those things because you don't know. And if you look at the US, they said a couple of weeks ago, the Fed said, okay, we're going to increase the interest rates, and I think if they are going to do that, probably will do it, then Europe has to follow with all the problems that it will, that will enroll from that. But they have to follow. Otherwise, there will be a big gap between the US with maybe in a couple of years 2 or 3% interest rates, and Europe 0. Then it's of course not good for the dollar against the euro.
No, that's true. The markets went down a little bit yesterday with the news, but like always they recovered, well like always, but recently they recovered, so we are actually trading around the same level again.
And Uranium is trading since the highest level of 2014. Also interesting to see. You see that. And like today there was in the news that the recovery in the UK is not going that fast, and you see the first real substantial differences coming up. Like PayPal, they announced that they're going to increase their costs between trades from Europe and the UK. So there it's not that much is happening, but there are some indicators, and I will later talk about the really strange new, unfortunately, and it can be an important indicator.
What's hot? Also.
Maybe you heard of it. We are in Spain, in the southern part of Spain, and it was the last 2 days really hot because there were really extreme fires, also close to my home. It was quite scary. And it's still not under control. It's better than yesterday and the day before, but this is in a hot area. If you can see the world map or the map of Europe, you see a really big place. The problem is that it's a huge area. So we're talking about, I don't know in kilometers, but huge area, and that's difficult to control the fire. So unfortunately in our area it's really physically really hot. But I didn't want to talk about that.
No, but it is. I mean,
but the Chinese stocks are hot in general.
Yeah.
I think the last 2 weeks we talked about the regulators and all the measurement, all the new rules that they installed. And this week was also in the news about the gaming. They said last week we talked about the gaming, so that the young people under 18 are not allowed to play online games more than 3 hours on a weekly basis. And also they said today or yesterday they said that new games are not. The game producers are not allowed to release the new games, online games yet. So that's something going on. On the other hand, so we talked about 5 steps that the regulators made in the last weeks, months. And so a lot of, you see it also on the news, a lot of investors are thinking, are analyzing, but is now the moment to go back in those shares? And I think we said it also last periods is if you are in the gaming industry, it's really really difficult sector. But for example, Alibaba, it went down from this year from 300 Hong Kong dollar to 167, so it's still around 50%. Also mainly due to the new steps of the regulators. If you look at the price earning, it's around 22 for this year, and in 2024 with these prices it will be around 12. So and the target price, if you look at 54 analysts, they think target price is 1 year that it will be, the average target price of those 54 analysts is $265. So chances are there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's hot? The DAX.
The DAX is hot. Yeah.
This week was announced that the DAX, we know it, the DAX 30 will change to the DAX 40.
Yeah, that's a big step.
It's a big step. It will be in the 20th of September. And it's actually not only this, it's a process that has been started in 2020. You know what's really interesting? That this has been done because of Wirecard. Because you remember that we were speaking in the office like, what is this for a kind of scandal?
Yeah.
That a DAX company, the 1.9 billion was lost, no? It was stolen or whatever, it's still not finished yet. So the DAX actually, the Deutsche Börse, they started a new renovation project, and actually in December already, last year there were already some new rules for companies listed on the DAX that they need to fulfill, so regarding the last 2 years financial figures. A few months later, there were also some penalties. If you have a rule, of course you do need to have some penalties. And in September, 20th of September this year, there will be 10 new companies in the DAX. So they come from the MDAX, the smaller brother of the DAX, and we have the DAX 40 then, and of course the MDAX becomes smaller.
Do you already know which companies it are?
Yes, it's Airbus, for example. It's Siemens Healthineers, so not the normal Siemens, but and Puma, for example. Okay. So it's a list, but it's expected that it's not that important actually, because it are the smaller companies. The DAX is a performance index, as we have said a lot of times now. It's with the dividend, and it's also based.
But on the other hand, it's also in the Dutch news that the pension funds, and they're really big in the Netherlands, they are buying more and more, investing more and more in ETFs. So they're not going to buy specific stocks, and those ETFs that they buy are mainly ETFs from the big markets, or the DAX 30, 40, the IX 25, the FTSE Top 100. So it will give a boost if those big investors go into ETFs, because they buy the main indices.
Yeah. So for the diversification of the German market, it's good, because there are companies of another sector. And actually for the smaller companies that come into the DAX, it could be good because of what you said, Stanley. Of course for the MDAX it could be bad, because the main companies there will leave. So but that was interesting that this has been done, because why you would do something like that. But it's really a process after the Wirecard scandal. So 20th of September it will be operational. This week it was like confirmed, but actually it was planned a year ago or something.
Really. Investors is really important, especially if you invest in Germany.
Yeah, and Germany, of course, the DAX started in 1988. and it's the biggest economy, of course, Germany of the EU, and the fifth of the world. So I mean, it's of course we always think that the DAX is important. No, we have our Dutch market, of course, the US, everyone is following, but the German one is very, very important. So, well, be careful, I don't know, but at least you will see some changes the 20th of September in the shares in the DAX, but the DAX itself, the calculation, it's not expected to move, to have a lot of changes on the price. So I think that's hot.
Yeah. Another thing that's hot, unfortunately, is the biggest, or some say it's the second one, but let's say it's the biggest real estate group of China that's almost bankrupt.
Yes.
The name is Evergrande. Maybe you heard something about it. I didn't see it in the news that much, and that also scares me. It's a company that lost it's on the stock market of Hong Kong, for example, and they already lost 75% this year. This week, the bonds they dropped 20%, so they were taken out of the market. And what's happening there? They have too much debt. They have around, they don't know exactly, but around $300 billion of debt. And what do? They build houses on a large scale, and then they sell up front. And because the company is so in big troubles, people don't want, they have to sell their houses now with discounts, but people are not willing, the Chinese people that want to purchase a house don't want to buy it anymore from them, because they are scared that if they pay up front, that when it goes bankrupt, then they don't get a house and they lose their money. So it's going really, really fast. And also Fitch and the other one, you have three big companies, Fitch and Moody's, they downgraded and they said it's almost in default. So it's not what I'm saying. And the founder of this company, he stepped down this week, and he is one of the most rich people of China. And there are the workers were striking this week because they said they didn't get paid in the last weeks. And they are working with that company 200,000 people, and they made an estimation that they think that directly related to that company are 3.8 million people in China. So it's something, and the 21st, you mentioned the 20th of September, then the DAX will go from 30 to 40. The one day later, they have to fulfill a lot of their obligations. So that's the day for that company. So it's Evergrande. It's really scary what's happening, and because they are afraid. A lot of banks are in there, investing in there, but also private people. And so if it goes really bad, then it will have an effect on the whole market, the economy. And we know from the past that the real estate is an indicator for the economy.
But it's what you say, that it's one thing, it's interesting that it's so bad, but why we don't hear more about it? You tell it, unfortunately for us, but it's like, this is like a chain, no, for the Chinese economy.
It's if you relate it to revenues, it's the 100. It's on the place of the Fortune Global 500, number 122. And it's also in the same time that the value of new home sales has fallen already 20% in China in the last period. I was, by the way, we have a friend of us, an Irish friend, I'm not going to say his name, and he sent me this article, and it was from The Guardian. And then I started reading about it. So thank you, friends. I'm not going to say your name.
Because we didn't hear anything, and we are following the news.
And then you see it in the New York Times. But it's an indicator. So hopefully they will help them, or the government, or there will be other investors that say, okay, we're going to save it because it's a very important company. Hopefully that will happen, but if not, it can be it can have a really big effect on the Chinese economy.
And the rest of the world, possibly.
And the rest of the world.
21st of September.
D-Day, definitely.
Okay, so that's the week, not next week, but the week after.
D-Week.
D-Week.
What's next?
What's next? More? Well, that's next, but it's not next week. Well, next week I didn't find that much news. Of course, we finally ended the Q2 figures. Actually, the Q3 almost finished now. So, but last week there were still some presentations. Monday, the OPEC monthly report may be interesting to follow.
Yeah.
But the week after, I think it's more important. The week and the new DAX.
Okay. Okay, thank you for watching. Do your homework. Let us know if you have another opinion and give us your time out, please. Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.